Are you tired of science fiction that promotes and celebrates collectivism? Are you sick of stories that glorify the nanny state at the expense of the individual? Well, boy, have I got the ticket for you today. I've got here an obscure anthology called Freedom, and it's a whole set of science fiction stories all about free societies. It's kind of a rarity, pretty interesting. I found it just randomly in a search for through Barnes & Noble, sitting on the shelf at the end of the science fiction section with all the other anthologies. And the big, bold Freedom with an exclamation mark on the side caught my eye, and I thought I'd pick it up. And boy, I'm glad I did. It's published by Ban Publishing, which I've never heard of. It's edited by Martin H. Greenberg and Mark Tier. Again, authors I've never heard of, and editors I've never heard of. But the collection will have some names you have heard of. It's actually an anthology of two previous collections, one called Give Me Liberty and the other called Visions of Liberty, and this combines them. The first one is really a set of stories that hypothetically imagine libertarian societies, and the second one is a set of stories that hypothetically imagine anarchist societies. So the second one is even more extreme than the first one. Among the authors in here that you may have heard of are Werner Vinge, A.E. Van Vogt, and Frank Herbert, and also a lot of other authors that I'm not familiar with, but viewers who are more well-versed in science fiction than I am may well have heard of some of them. It's a pretty interesting list. Now, this is kind of playing off two different traditions. There's the tradition of the utopia story, things like Plato's Republic and Thomas More's Utopia, where these are usually highly collectivized socialist, communist societies. The other tradition is the railing against government tradition of science fiction, which I happen to be a fan of. Things like 1984 by George Orwell, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, those type of imagine how terrible a totalitarian society would be. That's the other tradition. Now, this one takes a little bit of a different approach because it's like the utopian ones in that it imagines a positive vision for a new society in the future, and it's like the anti-government ones in that society is ungoverned and it's run or very minimally governed in the first section, and it's run by the individuals themselves, and there's not this central collective that is running everything else, and it's very individualistic. So I like it because usually from the point of view of the anti-communist, the people who think that free markets work, the people who think that individualism is good, their books tend to be very negative in tone, very critical of the existing order, imagining horror stories. There's a parade of horribles that goes across the screen, and you see, oh, how bad can it get? We better not let that happen. It's terrifying. And it's a very negative philosophy. But this takes that and turns it on its head and does a positive philosophy and imagines what some of these societies might look like in the future or now. You never know. And there's a lot of creativity that goes into it, a lot of different examples and very different imaginings of how a society without rulers might work or with very minimal rule. And I think it's a joy to read. It's good to see some kind of positive thinking along those lines and not just the same old railing against totalitarianism that you always see. So I really enjoyed the book. There's a lot of great stories in here, a lot of thought-provoking stories, things to make you ponder. These are hypothetical. They're not blueprints for how to build an actual society, but they are thought-provoking, and they remind me a lot of some of the works of Robert Heinlein, particularly The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, which I've talked about before, where he imagines a society that is largely stateless and largely just run by the individuals, and things work pretty well. It's not perfect. It's not a utopia. Nothing ever is. But it seems like it might not be a terrible idea. So I don't actually know if this book is still in print. It's a long time since I got it, but it was on my shelf, and I thought I'd talk about it. Hopefully you'll be able to find it if you're interested. I'm sure, the internet, you can find anything you want. But it is a pretty cool book, and I would recommend it if you're interested in these type of topics I've talked about. Again, it's called Freedom, which makes it really hard to find in a search engine. But if you look for the editors, Martin H. Greenberg and Mark Tier, you will find it. And maybe I'll try to dig up a link to Amazon and post it in the description below. If I can't, I'll edit this part out of the video. So that's my review. I've been Logan Albright. I'm very grateful to you for watching. I wish you would leave me some comments in the comments section. And if you like this video and want to see more, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you'll get notified whenever I post a new video. Take it easy.